We're in conversation with Rishad Premji, the chairman of Wipro, right here at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Rishad, thank you very much for talking to Moneycontrol. I have to start by asking you about the sentiment. People said they are cautiously optimistic. The other tech CEOs have been speaking to that, there will be a pickup sometime this year. Are you sensing the same when you speak to people? What's driving the cautious optimism, if you're sensing that?
Yeah, Chandra, I definitely feel signs of green shoots, right? And I want to be sort of sensitive that it's green shoots and that's what it is. I feel as I look out over the last few weeks, and certainly things seem to be opening up a little bit more, right? One of the things we look at closely is our order booking, and particularly for our consulting business, which to me is a lead indicator of discretionary spend. And we had a decent quarter last quarter in order booking, which to me is a good early indication of the way things are going. I also find that with all the talk around AI, you may almost feel you're at a tech conference. Yeah, but one of the things I also find is customers are with the sentiment of trying to move from POCing to a great extent last year to looking at more and more business impact this year. So I'm hopeful that as you move into the second half of this year, you should perhaps see more elements of discretionary spend picking up.
In fact, I was going to come to the AI portion, because when we walked on the promenade, literally every company had an AI attached to their name. So is that going to be the next big driver for you? How you're going to leverage it? Because AI ultimately is a horizontal layer that, will impact every industry that you operate in.
Yeah. So I'll talk from three perspectives. One is what we are doing in terms of investing in AI. Two is what we're doing to ourselves to disrupt ourselves or transform ourselves, leveraging AI as an enterprise. And three is what customers are talking about. One is we've called out over the last several months a deep long-term investment in AI through the AI 360-degree effort, which is $1 billion investment over the next 3 years. This is not only in buying companies, but just infusing the mindset pervasively across the company in everything we do, having an AI component to it. One of my favorites of that is how we train as many people as possible on GenAI 101. We've done 209,000 people of roughly 245,000 people at the moment. And the objective there is not to make them AI experts. The objective there is, this is the junior analyst, the junior techie who's working as to how they can think proactively about leveraging AI in their day-to-day work to make them more productive, to enhance and augment their capacity and their productivity as well. So that's one element in terms of how we're thinking about investing in AI. The other is just infusing it into all processes of the company. And my favorite example is what we're doing with employee experience. So we've built a chatbot called We Now. It has 40 functions or 40 use cases, everything from I want to pull my medical benefits, to I want to apply for leave, to I want to sort of check on my appraisals or my tax papers. I've personally used it. I'm amazed. We've had 4.7 million queries leveraging the chatbot for these 40 functions with a 98% accuracy of the outcome, right? So people are leveraging these cases like crazy. We'll go from 40 to 100. It's a very simple, but I think profound example of how we are making it omnipresent. And then the third is what customers are talking about. And I find that two thematics at some fundamental level. One is everything around experience. So everything around the customer, contact centers, chat, transaction completions, summarizations, all of those, everything around experience and speed. And the other is everything around productivity. How can you drive software faster? How can you make something happen better, faster, cheaper? And lots and lots of interesting use cases around. As I said earlier, I think this year is going to be the year where some of those pick up into be real business impact
from POC
cases.
From POCs. Let me come to Wipro, Rishad. The reaction from the street after your recent earnings has been positive. There is a sense that the worst is over, or the reorg is coming into place. The coming quarters will be positive. Tell us about how FY25 is going to be for Wipro. Will it be the year when you put all the reorg behind, the changes behind, and everything sort of clicks into place?
Yeah. Chandra, so look, this is a journey, right? I'm certainly hopeful that 24-25 can look better than 23-24. As I said, we're seeing early green shoots, but we've just got to put our heads down and focus. And that's exactly what we're doing. I'm a deep, strong believer in everything that we're doing. We're doing the right things. We're putting the right elements in place in the organization. And so I'm hopeful as we move on from this completing year to next year, things get better from where they were this year.
Right. Can you also tell us about the management itself? I mean, I know you've said this in the past, even at your AGMs, that, the board is firmly behind Thierry, but of course there is chatter in the market. So I want you to tell us on record on, what we should make of this. If the current management is here to stay, does the board completely endorse the current management?
Chandra, let me just say this unequivocally for the last time. Thierry and the management team have our full support. Okay?
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Right. In terms of senior leadership hires, Rishad, again, will you look at beefing it up? Because we've also seen some exits in the last year. Or is this part of the reorg that we have seen at Wipro?
Two things. One is, if you look at over the last 6 to 12 months, we really haven't hired too many senior leaders from outside. Many of them have been actually homegrown, many promotions internally. You can see that with some senior promotions inside the organization as well. Promotions happening on a consistent basis to vice president above on an annual basis is sort of moving well. So there's a large chunk of internal movement that's happening. Look, in large organizations, people come and go, and people leave, I would say, for 3 reasons. One is there's structural changes, and when you're transforming organization, there's some structural changes happening. People leave because they're not performing and the organization is not happy, or people leave because they find amazing opportunities outside. And our exits have also been a very healthy combination of these 3, and that's just the nature of large organizations and organizations in a business that's transforming and growing.
Right.
As you move forward.
A comment from you, Rishad, on the instances of poaching and everything that we have seen between firms. Wipro has cases pending against 2 of its former executives. Is this just about enforcing contracts more than anything else? Again, wanted to get your comment on.
Chandra, you've answered the question. It is, our contracts, our employment contracts, our stock option contracts are industry standard. We're simply enforcing them. Senior leaders get incentivized and compensated well to maintain the confidentiality of what they're doing, and we're just ensuring that we enforce that. This is nothing personal. This is not about preventing employability of people. We've done none of that. It's simply enforcing contracts, and you should not read anything more into that than that.
Right. Finally, Rishad, the larger question that I have on the IT industry itself. For the longest time, this was the industry that used to hire in the strongest numbers. But in the last few quarters, we've seen headcount declining quarter on quarter for many firms. Now, is that a sign of, just weak demand forecasting or oversupply, say in 2022, which is getting corrected now? Or are we seeing the effects of GenAI and automation in some sense already getting reflected in hiring?
Yeah, Chandra, so I would argue it's the former, not the latter. The reality is many of us hired aggressively over the last few years. The reality has been a slow demand environment over 23, 24, and I think it's just the after effects of that. I would not argue that you're seeing elements of disruptive productivity coming into play on scale to change the hiring quotient yet.
Right. Finally, as the leader of one of India's largest software firms, what would your message be to the engineer of tomorrow, say the the 2024 batch of engineers? Yeah. How can they ensure that they stay relevant? Because the pace of technology change is really rapid.
Yeah. Have a strong, open mindset to skilling, reskilling, constantly being open to learn and to leverage the technology. You look at it as an enhancer, as an augmenter of your capacity, and not as a threat to you. That's what I would submit.
Great. On that note, thank you very much, Rishad, for talking to us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.